Am I on? There. Now I'm on. Now you won't look so distant. Ephesians chapter 6, and I'm going to, I'm honestly, I'm going to treat you as if you were sitting in my office and you came in as a teenager and you were having problems with mom and dad. How about that? You're sitting here, and I want you to imagine yourself having problems with your mom and dad. Now, I know it's going to be hard to imagine that, but I want you to imagine that you and mom, you and dad are just not getting along. You got that? How many have a mom and dad? Now, that's deep right there, right? You didn't raise your hand. How many do not have a mom and dad? You were hatched. And anybody like that right there? You were hatched. And I believe that, brother. You have no idea how much I believe that you were hatched. Amen? It worked. And if you weren't hatched, no parents would take credit for you. Amen? And so I want you to imagine that you and mom and dad, like for months, you've been having a hard time. I mean, just like a month. A month you've not been getting along. Months you're always getting in trouble. And now I want you to imagine that you're getting older and you still are having problems. I mean, everything was great when you were in 7th grade, 8th grade, but now you have reached that age, whatever that age is, and now you just don't see eye to eye. You just don't get along. It is nothing but conflict. Every morning is strained. Every morning it's a little bit of just problems. Now I want you to imagine, I know it's going to be hard to imagine because this never happens to anybody in this room. Now I want you to imagine that mom is getting frustrated with you. You have pushed her to the point to where now mom and dad are starting to yell. I know it's going to be hard to, I've never heard it this quiet in this auditorium. I don't have video cameras in your house, okay? I want you to imagine that now mom is to the point to where now she no longer speaks softly. She no longer has a sweet spirit. Now she literally is so frustrated with you that now she is yelling at you. I want you to imagine dad no longer has a sweet spirit. You've gotten older. This has gone on for a long time, and that you truly do not have a good relationship. And now you're stuck. You're not changing. Mom and dad are frustrated. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 1, and you're sitting in my office and you're going, what is going on? I am tired of this. So now we need to decide who is to blame for this home not going well. Who's to blame? Is mom and dad out of control? Because I've heard all the stories. Trust me. I have heard in 22 years of being the youth pastor, in the last 5.5 years of being the pastor, I have talked to hundreds, if not thousands of teenagers, and when they start telling me the story, it used to be, Brother Goddard, you probably have been there like I was in the early days. It used to be when a teenager told me a story about how terrible mom and dad was, I was a sucker. It was almost like they put the bait out there. I bit on the bait, and they were reeling me in. And all of a sudden, by the time that teenager was done, I was 19 when I started being the youth pastor. And by the time that 16-year-old was done telling me about how terrible mom and dad were, you've been there at the very beginning, I was like, oh, terrible parents. And I can remember after the first 6 months, I'd be walking past parents going, oh, those are terrible people. Those are terrible people. And I would look at the teenager after they tell me these stories of these problems and how mom acted and how mom always screams and how mom always is just out of, my parents are out of control. I used to think to myself, man, that teenager has some terrible parents. And then I had to wise up and understand that if I have to believe you, now imagine you are sitting in fact, Brother Joseph, take that chair and put it right down there if you don't mind. And so we're going to imagine you've come into my office. So if you're sitting there and you are looking at me and you are facing me. There you go, facing. And you're sitting in that chair and you are facing me in my office going, you don't know my home and you don't know how bad it is. Now, if I have to believe you or I have to believe the Bible, guess which one I'm going to believe? I'm going to believe the Bible. The Bible says a child is known by their doings, not by your heart, but by what you do. So let's look at it. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 1, verse 2, verse 3. Now, question. Is the command given to the parents first or to the children first? Talk to me now. Children. Now, you say, well, how do you define a child? Are you ready? Until you can 100% support yourself, you're still a child. If you have to rely upon mommy and daddy for anything to keep you going, you're still a child. My 19-and-a-half-year-old that lives at home, he has his own truck, he has his own bank account, he has his own savings, he has his own job, but that room is mine. He could not survive without me. The food he eat, that's mine. And the other day he walked into his mama and hugged his mom and picked her up off the ground, and her feet are just dangling like that. And he said, I'll put you down when you give me $20. And I looked at him and said, you put her down because I'm a co-signer on your account. I'll take your $20. Amen. Put her down. And you know, and just joking around, of course. But listen to me, children. Look what it says there. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor thy father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with who? Thee. When a teenager comes in and says, it's not going well at my house, then I know they are violating two things in their home. Regardless of what they tell me about mom and dad, they're violating two things. They are not obeying and they are not honoring. Because it is a biblical promise that when you obey and you honor, it automatically goes well. The reason your mama is a screamer is you made her a screamer. You know why she has to scream? Because you're not listening to her voice when she speaks the first time. Parents don't come out screamers. Children make them screamers. And I don't have time to go into this, a whole nother lesson right here in Ephesians 6, 1, 2, and 3. But I will tell you this, because we're fixing to jump back to Judges. Listen to me very closely. If it's not going well in your home, it is your fault. It is not your mom and dad's fault. Because if you would obey them, and by the way, the word obey there is a porter. The word obey, and one of the definitions in the Greek is the fact this is a porter. You are to be waiting like a waiter waits with his towel over his hand, and you are to be waiting on the request of mom and dad. I told my children as they were growing up, it's not your mama's job to get your attention. It is your job to listen for her voice. It's unacceptable in my home growing up for my children to say, well, I didn't hear mom. No. You don't understand. You don't understand. You are to be tuned in to that woman's voice, and when she clears her throat, you are to stop what you're doing, knowing and waiting to see if she calls your name. She's not supposed to get your attention. You're supposed to be waiting for her voice. Boy, if I ever came home and my wife told me, Deanna, I had to call her name 3 times, we got problems, because I'm not living with a frustrated woman. I would tell those kids, that's my wife first, that's your mother second, and I have to put up with your disobedience. Ain't happening. I'll kill you. Now, I don't want a wild woman meeting me at the door, mad and upset and want to tear me apart. No, you don't understand this. I want a happy wife when I come home, and obedient children make for a happy mama. A happy mama makes for a happy wife. A happy wife makes for a happy father. A happy father makes for happy children. Because if mama's not happy, ain't nobody happy, and it starts with dad, and I bring it right back to you. So if you don't want me taking out a bad marriage on your rear end, you better start obeying. They knew. And the second thing is when I told them what to do, unacceptable, are you ready? I forgot. No. You chose not to remember. It was not you forgot. You chose not to remember. That's not even the sermon. Are you ready? But I said all this to say this. If you come in to see me and act like you're sitting right there and you go, it's not going well in my home, then I would look at you as a teenager and say this, then you are violating the first 2 commands in God's word, and that is this: you are not obeying and you are not honoring. Obedience is when you do it the first time you're told, and you do it rightly, what you're told to do. Honoring is when you have a great attitude about doing it. Take out the garbage. So you get up and take out the garbage, but you slam things on the way out of taking it out. No wonder it's not going well. No wonder. You know how you ought to take out the garbage? When mom says, hey, son, can you take out the garbage? Yes, ma'am, I would love to open that trash can, and I would love to smell the stench up my nose, and I would love to see all the leftovers that people didn't want. In fact, Mom, that little baby of that dirty diaper, and you put it in that trash can, I cannot wait to put my hands and shove that trash all the way. It is a joy to take that trash all the way out, and I would love to take it all the way out to the trash can, and I would be honored if I could put that trash bag in the trash, and I would it is the joy of my day to make sure that trash lid is put back. Mom, thank you for letting me be the kind of son that you would trust me with the trash. Now, if every boy took that attitude here, your mama wouldn't have to scream at you ever again. Daughters, clean out the dishwasher. Mother, I have been waiting all day. I got ready this morning and put my makeup on and put perfume on and I ironed all my clothes for that one request. I have been waiting for you to tell me to clean out the dishwasher. Mom, what a great honor. If you took that attitude when you go home, your mother and dad would faint, then you could do whatever you wanted to do. Just don't resurrect them, amen. So is it not going well? Now go to Judges, if you don't mind, chapter 14, and here's the lesson for this morning. And give me a hearing for 34 minutes, and then I'm done. Are you ready? I want you to go to Judges chapter 14. I told you to imagine at the very beginning of our lesson this morning the fact that you and mom and dad are not getting along. Then I had you imagine that you're getting older and you and mom and dad not getting along. Now, please listen to me. The older you get and the more that you do not listen to mom and dad, and the more that you make it very difficult on mom and dad, let me tell you what's happening to mom and dad. As you are getting older, and as you are growing up, and where you used to be a little kid, and when you didn't obey, they could whip you and put you in a corner somewhere and then make you do, and you would do because the pain associated with not doing was much greater than what you wanted to pay. So as they trained you, but then something happens as you get older. If you're not careful on the inside, you become hard enough on the inside that a whooping on that rear end does not affect you. Whip me as much as you want to. It doesn't really bother me. I remember, I talked a little bit about it yesterday morning, I think it was. I remember becoming so hard at my mom and dad for about 2 years that my mother whipped me, and I was 16 years of age, and I've been over on that. We had this thing where you had to put your hands on the bed, and you had to spread like that, and my mother said, assume the position. I'm 16, and I remember assuming the position, and she whipped me about 5 times, and I remember turning around and saying, is that all you got? Because if that's all you got, then you're wasting your time and you're wasting my time. And she said, you better put your hands back on. I remember being so hard that my mom, and I'm going to give you the title here after the story, my mother put the belt down and she said, you stay in that position. Called my dad. My dad came home from the church, and I'm still in this position. I'm standing there, and I didn't really care. My dad walked in and said, Leanne, what's going on? And she told my dad what I had said, and my father walked in and said, son, let me tell you something. You may be big enough to walk out of this house, and you may be big enough to take me on, but you're not bigger than God. Keep your hands on that bed. And my dad whipped me, and I remember the intensity of the whipping. Now, in our house, we only got a certain number of swats, but my dad could vary the intensity. And when I got all the way done and I stood there, after my dad got done, I was hurting now. My mama, you remember Hitler? My mom, she gave it her best shot. When my dad got done, let me tell you something. I was so sore on the back end of my rear that but I wasn't about to let him know it. I would not let him know it. Then my dad said this. He said, son, don't wear us down to where we give in to you, because the moment we as parents give in to you, that's when you're done. I'm going to preach on this subject, give you on this. You ready? Wearing your parents down. Wearing them down. If you're not careful, you're going to wear mom and dad down. Now, I'm going to teach you how to do it. I'm going to teach you, if you really want mom and dad to give in to you and you really want your own way, then we're going to use the story of Samson, and I'm going to give you how to wear your parents down. If you say, you know what, I want mom and dad to give in to me, I'm going to tell you how to wear them down. So if you want to wear them down and you really want your own way and you're getting stubborn. Now remember, Samson, we're going to talk about Samson here in just a moment. The story of Samson is not when he was a little boy. You don't weary your parents when you're little. You weary your parents when you get old, about 16, 17, 18, 19, and beyond. And I believe Samson was a much older man at this time, but it doesn't matter. The older you get and the more stubborn that you get, the more your parents come to that point to where they go, well, I'll just give in. Listen to me. The moment your mom and dad give in to you is the moment you will not like yourself. Look at Samson at the very end of his life. Bald-headed, blind, grinding at the mill, all because he wore mom and dad down and made mom and dad give in. You hold in the power of your hand good parents or bad parents. You hold in the power of your hand, either making mama a screamer or making mama a very sweet person. You hold in your hand, either making daddy somebody that you just don't want to live with, that's meaner than a junkyard dog. And by the way, when you hurt a mama, you bring a mama to shame, and a mama will weary herself, and she'll look old quick. You do that to a dad, and a dad will shut all the way down, and he'll want nothing to do with you. And some of you don't have a relationship with your father, and you can't understand why. Because he puts so much money into you, and you just snub him. You don't obey or honor him, and you're like a bad investment. He just wants nothing to do with you. And mom is just so weary. So if you want to wear your parents down to the point they let you have your way. Because after all, you're 17, you know better than anybody else, right? You're 18, you know what a mortgage payment's like and insurance payment's like, and you really know what the cost of gasoline means and what it costs to keep a car up. No, you don't. Boy, you ought to desire to be the kind of teenager. So if you were sitting right here, I would give you these 5 things that wear your parents down. Look at Judges chapter 14, verse 1. And Samson went down to Timnath and saw a woman in Timnath of the daughter of the Philistines. And he came up and told his father and his mother and said, I have seen a woman in Timnath of the daughters of the Philistines. Now therefore get her for me to wife. Then his father and his mother said unto him, Is there never a woman among the daughters of thy brethren, or among all my people, that thou goest to take a wife of all the uncircumcised Philistines? And Samson said unto his father, Get her for me, for she pleaseth me well. Look at the demanding of a son to a father. And as we know the story, Samson's mom and dad gave in, but only after Samson wore the parents down. Your mom and dad know how to handle you when you're young. Your mom and dad know how to handle you when you're junior age. Your mom and dad know how to handle you when you're preteen. But when you get to a teenager's world and you become stubborn on God and stubborn on your parents, and this is the way I want it, if you don't have a well home, whose fault is it? Your fault for not obeying and honoring. And then if you really want to keep it up, let me give you 4 things I think you need to do to wear mom and dad down to where they'll give you your way because you know better and you love being blind and bald and grinding at the mill and everybody making fun of you, and that's what's going to happen. So let me tell you how to get there. Are you ready? It's a wonderful life, by the way. I've seen bald, blind people I've seen them drunk. I've seen them vomit. This is a wonderful life. You'll love the life you're about ready to have. So let me give you 4 things to wear mom and dad. Number 1, hate where God has placed you. Just hate it. I mean, hate it. Hate where you're at. Just hate it. Hate the family you're in. Hate the mom and dad that you have. Hate the town that you grew up in. Hate the house that you live. Hate it all. I mean, just hate it. From down deep inside, hate it all. Slam the cupboards. Slam the doors. Don't pick up your room. Don't obey mom and dad. Just hate everything you have. It's very interesting to me that God allowed Samson, listen to this, to be born in the tribe of Dan, to be born in the small town of Zorah, and to be part of a tribe that had the smallest piece of ground among the 12 tribes. Think about where God placed Samson, in the smallest piece of ground, in the smallest of the tribes, and he looked at what he had and said this, I hate where I'm at. I hate the rules. I hate the church I go to. Listen to me. It's your right. It's your prerogative to become stubborn and hold your breath until mom and dad give in. But you want to wear them down? Hate everything. I mean, hate it to the point to where you don't like God's people. You don't like anything going on. And guess what you'll do? You'll wear your mom and dad down to where finally they'll give in to you. They'll give in. They'll give in. I saw my mama when I was 15 and 16 and 17. I saw my mama age right before my eyes, and it never even bothered me. I got a lot of making up to do with my mom. It never even bothered me. My mom the other day called and said, Bobby, I can't get on the internet with my computer. She said, can you come over? Now I'm pastoring. I'm in the middle of pastoring a church, and I get this call from my mom, Bobby. I said, Mama, is Dad there? And she goes, yeah, he's sitting right here. I said, let me talk to Dad. So Dad gets on and says, Dad, Mom needs your help. And my dad said, Bobby, Mama doesn't need my help. Mama needs her son. And she's just using the stinking computer as an excuse to get you over here. And I said, I'm on my way. Got my car, went over there, walked in, and my mother meets me at the door. And she's much older than she now is no longer Hitler. She stopped that gig, stopped that job. And she meets me at the door and said, Bobby, I don't know what's wrong with the computer. I can't seem to get it on the internet. And I was like, really? I said, oh, my soul. I hope it's not bad, because if it's bad, Mom, we're going to have to take your computer into the shop. And I tell you what, just let me take it with me and I'll get it back in a month. She said, oh, no, I don't think it's that bad if you can just look at it. And she has a Mac, and so a little Safari icon right there. And I said, well, Mama, if you'll move it over here and you'll punch that little picture right there called an icon. And she said, okay, so that's what it's called. And I said, you hit that right there, it'll start bouncing, and then all of a sudden, it'll come up. I'm treating her like she's 3. She's like, oh, okay. So I just moved this little mouse over there, and I hit that, and the little thing bounces, and it comes up. And I said, yes, ma'am. So she moved it over there, and she hit that little thing, that little world bounced, and it came up. And she said, that's wonderful. Thank you. Except my mother's mustache was never like that. Amen. And so she said, oh, you saved the day. I just don't think I could have done that. Let me tell you something. I remember the days when Mom and I did not have a good relationship, and moments like that are very precious to me. But there was a time I hated Longview, Texas. I hated the town of 70,000. I hated 2309 Kentucky Avenue. I hated my room. I hated the school I went to. I hated the people I was around. I thought the deacons were idiots. I thought the people around me were fools. I remember Brother Goddard going into my dad called me in one time into his office between Sunday school and church, and he called me in, and he said, and there's some old man sitting there. And he said, Bobby, this is so-and-so. And I said, yeah, good to see you. And he said, I want you to escort him to the front row. And I said, yeah, come on. I mean, just like that. He said, son, I suggest you get a better attitude about life. And I said, I'm sorry. Sir, would you like to come with me? Just very sarcastic. So I took this old man to the front row, and we sat there. Nobody bothered us for 30 minutes. Nobody. You know who it was? Lester Roloff. He had come to preach at our church. I was so miserable. I was so miserable. And that name may not mean much to you, but to those of us who know preachers, that name means a lot. I was so miserable that Lester Roloff tried to talk to me on the front row, and at 16, I wouldn't even give him due respect. The next week, he went home to be with the Lord. Like an idiot, I could kick myself. I still am kicking myself. But I hated where I was at. My mom and dad didn't know what to do with me. My mom and dad were getting weary. They were getting tired. If you want your way, just keep hating where you're at. I mean, let it really get up a good piece of hate. I mean, hate it so much that you're miserable. Hate it so much that you sit there and you sulk. Hate it so much that you want nothing to do. You don't care. I mean, slouch down, hate it, and guess what? You'll weary mom and dad down to where they don't even know what else to do with you. They'll give you what you want. But I would hope you wouldn't be that way. I would hope you don't have that much hate on the inside of you. Second thing, if you really want to wear them down, are you ready? Here we go. Not only hate the place where you're at, hate the restrictions placed upon you. Look at Samson. Samson was not allowed to do anything with his hair. He was not allowed to eat anything that came from the vine. He was not allowed to drink wine or strong drink, and he was not allowed to touch any unclean thing. I mean, hate the standards and hate the restrictions. Well, why can't I grow my hair long? Why can't I go out and party? Why can't I go out by myself? Why can't I have my driver's license? Why can't I have a car? Why won't you leave me alone? Why won't you get me a cell phone? Why won't you let me go out with that girl? Why won't you let me go to that party? How come I have to go to a Christian school? How come I can't go to a public school? How come I have to sit there? How come I have to do that? And my mom and my my mother, it got so bad, Brother Goddard, that my mother went to school with me for 2 weeks straight. I am a sophomore in high school, and my mother woke up one day and said, guess what, son? Since I can't trust you away from me, I'm going with you. And I said, what exactly does that mean? She said, I'm going to school with you. My mother got up. She got ready. She packed her own brown sack lunch and got dolled up. And I think on purpose, she wore the ugliest jewelry someone could ever wear. I mean, the gaudiest earrings I've ever seen, this stupid-looking necklace. And then I think she put on the old woman's cheap perfume. Yeah, come on, everybody know what I'm talking about? You can smell them after they've been someplace, like your mother's been here, hasn't she? That's like the dime store perfume right there. Tell your mother, get some good stuff. And my mother went to class, and she got her book, got her notebook, and she would take notes, and she sat right next to me. I would get up to go in between classes, and she would go with me to the locker, and she'd stand there. And she said, can I use your locker too? And she would put her books in the locker. She had convinced the principal to get her a duplicate set of books of every class I was in. We went to economics together. We went to chemistry together. We went to Bible together. And she took all the notes. We got home that night. We would study together. Bobby, I think we got a test coming up tomorrow. And so 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Basketball practice. She would go to practice, and she would sit on the bench and crochet while I'm practicing. During those 2 weeks, we had 4 basketball games. She got on the bus and sat next to me on the bus. At the ball games, she sat on the bench at the very end. When I went to the locker room to shower and change, she stood right out and she said, now, Bobby, it should take you 10 minutes because when you're a little boy, my friends are standing around. When you're a little boy, I used to give you a bath and it only took me 10 minutes. Now, you used to wiggle a lot. My mother, I was like, are you serious? And she's like, you have 10 minutes or I am coming into the locker room and I am going to see that you're okay. Because when you're a little boy, you used to play with your rubber ducky in the bathtub and used to goof off when I said, Bobby, get out of that bathtub. This is my mother for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. We were in Dallas, Texas, playing First Baptist Church of Dallas, W.A. Criswell School, and I took longer. My friends are killing me. They said, Bob, I don't know what you're doing at home, but would you get right at home? We are tired of your mother being around. My mother, I delayed in the gymnasium, First Baptist Church, Dallas, Texas. My mother kicks open the door and says, Mother in the locker room, I have my eyes closed. I'm looking for my son, and I know what his feet look like. My mother came into the locker room with her face covered like this, looking at everybody's feet until she found me. I was like, Mom, she said, son, I told you only had 10 minutes to get dressed and changed. Now, are you okay? Is something going wrong? I cannot tell you how much I hated the restrictions. I mean, I hated it. The more she would do this kind of junk, the more I hated it. Finally, my father said, son, when are you going to smarten up? If you would just obey, he would stop. And if you would just have a good attitude, she would stop. And all of a sudden, I said, Mom, I love you. Mom, you're so good to me, Mom. Mom, I love you. Mom, you're great. I've really enjoyed the past 2 weeks of you coming to school with me. I've enjoyed you coming to my ball practices. Mom, I even enjoyed it when you hauled me off the court when I hollered at the ref. One time the ref made a call and said, are you stupid? Do you need glasses or something? My mama put down her crocheting, got up off that bench, came and grabbed me by the ear, took me off the court. We had a discussion. She drug me back by the ear, came back onto the court, looked at the ref and said, he owes you an apology. Now apologize. We're in the middle of a game. Apologize. I am 16 years of age, a star. I'm sorry I hollered at you. Son, put your shoulders back while you talk to an adult. I'm sorry that I hollered at you. She said, he's a good boy. And she went back and sat down. The ref is like, because we hired all our refs because we didn't trust deacons to ref. And too many problems right there. And the ref was looking at me, and he said, is she always this way? I said, only when I act like an idiot. He said, for the sake of this game, would you straighten up? My friends were hating me. The ref was hating me. My girlfriend I was dating at the time was like, Bob, I haven't talked to you in 2 weeks. Your mother is around. And that's a whole nother story. And let me tell you something. When I decided to stop hating the restrictions put on me, and I started telling Mom, I love that you're there. You know, my mother, and when I took Dad's advice, she said, really, Bob? And I was like, Mom, it's been a joy. She said, I think I can give you 1 more week. It's like, Mom, it's not that much of a joy. But I promise you I'll straighten up. Let me tell you something. You go ahead and hate every restriction, and your mother and your father won't know what to do with you, and they're going to give in to you. You don't want Mom and Dad to give in to you. You don't want them to let you do whatever you want to do because you're not mature enough to handle life. I said, first of all, and I've got to hurry, Samson hated where God had placed him. Number 2, he hated the restrictions placed on him. Why can't I cut my hair? Think about this. Why can't I cut my hair? Why can't I eat grape jelly? Why can't I have that Dr. Pepper? That's the strong drink. Why can't I touch any unclean thing? Why can't I go out and pick up that dead carcass off the road and stick my hand all the way down its guts and see how bloated it really is? How come I can't play with dead animals? Well, son, that's the restrictions we have. Let me tell you something. Your God knows what kind of restrictions you need to keep you out of trouble. And if you don't love those restrictions, you're going to make Mom and Dad you don't want Mom and Dad to give in to you. Third thing, write it down. Sneak around and do the forbidden. Sneak around and do the forbidden. If you really want to weary Mom and Dad down, sneak around and do the forbidden. Can I ask you a question? When you were younger, remember when you were younger and Mom and Dad threatened you to send you to your room? How many remember that? They threatened to send you to your room if you didn't behave? Remember when you were younger that you would go, oh, I don't want to go to my room. Oh, please don't send me to my room. How many remember the day when Mom and Dad said, go to your room, and you said, yes, I get to take a nap. I don't have to look at it. I get to take a nap. Please send me to my room. I would love to go to my room. Right now, I joke with my wife. You don't behave, I'm going to send you to your room. Just joking with her. She said, please, that way you can take care of the kids and I can take a nap. I said, no, you stay in here. And, there was that time. Okay, you know what happened? Listen to this. Mom and Dad get weary. So really, what are they going to punish you with? Sending you to your room? Like that's a big punishment? You just lay in your bed and go to sleep? Think about this. What are they going to do? Whip you? I mean, they can only whip you so much. And then you become hard toward. What are they going to do? So if you really want to weary Mom and Dad down, go ahead and sneak around. Do the forbidden, okay? Sneak around, and when they're not with you, go ahead and listen to the music they tell you not to. Go ahead and run with the kids they tell you not to. Go ahead and do things they tell you not to. My mom and dad, and I'm just giving you insight. I have wonderful parents, and I agree with Brother Goddard. I have wonderful parents, and I don't know why my mom and my dad truly, out of all 4 kids, I have no idea why they just didn't send me off someplace. And it's just but God's grace I didn't lose my virginity, and it's but by God's grace that I didn't lose my purity. That's just I think I was so rebellious, I wanted nothing to do with anybody and just stay out of my world. Don't stay out, just stay out of my, but I found myself doing the forbidden. My mom and dad told me one time, stay home from school. Stay home from this activity. I wish they would have told me stay home from school. Stay home from this, don't leave the house. We'll be gone, don't leave the house. I remember my friend came and picked me up, and we went and played racquetball. And I said, look, man, I got 2 hours to play racquetball. My parents are going to be back at the house, okay? I got to be back, which means we got time. We're playing. Well, the ball gets stuck on a chain link fence up top. It's up top. So I said, well, Larry, I'll crawl up there and get it. So I crawled up there, and so I crawled all the way to the top, and I reached over and grabbed the ball, and I hit it down. And then as I'm getting down, my feet slip, and the chain link fence, how many know what I'm talking about? The chain link fence that are crossed like that and have the little pointed things sticking out? My feet slipped, and that chain link fence dug into my forearm. I am hanging, my feet are dangling, and I'm hanging by my forearm. Blood is everywhere, and Larry's like, Bob, are you okay? I said, man, I can't get my footing. I can't get it. And so he said, you got to. I can't get up there. And so finally I got my footing. I had to come up from here to here. I had to come up to get it out, lift it out, and then climb all the way down. I got all the way down. Larry said, we got to go to the hospital. I said, man, I can't go to the hospital. My parents think I'm at home. I can't go to the hospital. Right now I have a scar on that forearm. I can't go to the hospital because my mom and my dad think I'm at home. I got to get back home. And so I got back home and I put peroxide on it. I tried everything. I was trying everything to clean this stupid thing out. I found some so I bandaged it up. It is like May, beginning of June and July, and it is hot in Texas. Well, I had to wear long sleeves so my parents would not see these bandages. I can remember sitting at dinner. It's hot outside, humidity, and I have long sleeves on. My dad said, Bob, what are you doing? Why are you wearing long sleeves? So, Dad, I've been trying to kind of, I'm trying to lose weight. And I'm trying to get athletic for next year. And so I figure if I could sweat a lot, I get all the impurities out of my body. So that's why I'm dressing this way. And it was like, son, that's weird. You're weird, okay? You've gone from rebellious, now you're just plain weird. Now go change your shirt. Dad, I don't need to change my shirt. So we got into a big old discussion about me changing. Well, I didn't want them to see this. Can I tell you something? When they found out I had left the house, they said, what do you want us to do? Handcuff you to the bed? Really, what do you want us to do? You can wear your parents down because they have what is forbidden. Then the consequence, but you just go ahead and keep being hard. Go ahead and just hate where you live, hate the restrictions, do the forbidden. And the fourth thing, don't listen to the little talks they have with you. It's very interesting here that Samson's mom and dad, when they said, Samson, is there never any girls of our own people that you want to date? There's no doubt that they would have these talks with Samson. There's no doubt that Samson snuck around. His hair was only an outward symbol that was kept. All other vows he violated. He tried to look good on the outside to throw mom and dad off the path, but all the other vows, guess what? He violated until it came out who he really was. So he snuck around. He didn't listen to the little talks they had. Let me tell you something. How many times have your mom and dad tried to talk to you and they've tried to lecture you? How many would agree? Whip me, but don't lecture me. How many hate it when mom and dad say, son, let's have a talk? Oh, and then they start down this path. When I was a child, when I was a teenager, your grandmother and your grandfather, son, when I had children 16 years ago, I envisioned in my head. It got to a point that don't want to hear about grandma and grandpa. I don't want to hear about your visions about my life. I just don't want to hear about this. Listen to me. You keep that kind of attitude up, you will wear mom and dad down till finally they'll say, fine. I just don't want to fight with you anymore. Go do what you want to do. Let me tell you something. That's when truly you ruin your life. That's when you truly, because now you think you have mom and dad's approval. It's not their approval. It's their frustration because you're getting older. What else are they supposed to do with you? What else do you want them to do? They have no other choice. The hardest thing I'll ever tell a parent is this. Mom, Dad, they are 18. They can do whatever they want to do. How many times have parents said, I don't want to hear that. And please don't tell them that. I said, Mom, Dad, they literally could walk out of your house, tell you to drop dead, and never step back. They literally can do whatever they want to do. And I've seen parents get so frustrated that they give in to their kids. Next, if you don't mind, here we go. Number 5, I've got to hurry. Become associated with people who have different gods. Become associated with people who have different gods. It was very interesting that when Samson started running with different people, that guess what started to happen who had different gods? Then he talked with a bad woman who had a different god. This bad woman had 30 companions. They had a feast. Things didn't go well. So if you really want to wear mom and dad down, keep having friends who this world is their God. They have the wrong kind of music. They have the wrong kind of dress. They have the wrong kind of association. Keep dragging home friends from work, and keep dragging home friends from the neighborhood, and keep dragging home people that don't believe like you believe. And let me tell you something, they'll get frustrated. And that's what you want. You want them to get frustrated because you want them to tell you you can do whatever you want to do. Isn't that what you want? Because once they tell you that you can do whatever you want to do, then guess what? You too could become with child without a husband. And you too could have a drug addiction. And you too could get drunk. And you too could have just a wonderful life of making minimum wage and living in a garage over somebody else's apartment and really eating leftovers and really sponging off everybody and having no car and having no vehicle and riding your skateboard everywhere you go, because that's just a wonderful way of transportation. Then when you get married, she can have her skateboard and you can have your skateboard. And then when you have children, you just attach little skateboard wagons to the back of your skateboards, and you can take your family everywhere you want to and park your skateboards outside McDonald's because that's all you can afford. Isn't that a wonderful life to live? So keep disobeying, keep wearing them down. You just become stubborn and become hard, and they'll give in to you and they'll let you do whatever you want to do. Isn't that a wonderful life? And then you can be bald and you can be blind and you can just go in circles in life, because that's all you'll go is in circles. But that'll be a wonderful life because you are your own man and your own woman, and you are just it. Let me tell you something. That's not what you want to do. Samson wore his parents down. Next thing, are you ready? Last thing, become stubborn. Don't change your mind. Don't even listen to him. Don't become stubborn. You know what stubbornness is? Not even letting somebody discuss it with you. It's not a process, discuss it, I'll think about it. Becoming stubborn is when you, talk to the hand. Talk to the hand. I'm not listening. RG, our special needs son, whenever he doesn't want to listen to you, he'll take his hands, put on the outside of his ears, and go blah, 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 blah. Like, no, RG, you're supposed to put them inside your ears and go blah, blah, blah. He thinks you're supposed to put them right there. I thought that was funny. And no, son, you're supposed to put them on the inside. That way you can't hear. And then when I tried to move his hands, he goes, you don't tell me what to do. It's right there. Like, okay, fine. Go fine, but you're still going to hear what I tell you to do. And that's a special needs kid. What's your problem? Amen. And become stubborn. Now, here it is. You ready? I'll end with this. But if you're sitting here going, I don't want my mom and dad to give in to me. I don't want them to give in to me. I don't want to wear my mom down. A child left to himself does what to his mom? Bringeth his mother to what? Shame. Oh, you don't want to do that to your mom. Your mom went through the jaws of death to bring you to life. You don't want to do that to your mom. So if you don't want to do that, I go back to Ephesians 6:1. Are you ready? And I'm done. 3 minutes. Ephesians 6:1. What are the two words that if you'll do, everything will be well? What are they? They are the word obey, and they are the word what? Honor. Obey is what you do with your action. Honor is what you do with your attitude. I want you to remember that, teenager. Obedience is what you do with your action. Honor is what you do with your attitude. That's all this is. Hey, son, right down here in the front row. Right down here in the front row. Come here. I want you. Bring your jacket. Come here. Bring your jacket. Hurry. Get up here. Put that jacket over your arm like you're a waiter. There you go. Put it over your arm. Did I just hit you in the nose? Sorry about that. Okay. All right. Hey, stand over there. You're my son. All right, stand over there. Stand over there. There you go. Just I want you to be my waiter. Just right like you're at a restaurant, okay? Oh, that's fine, right there. I don't need you yet. I'm the parent. He's the son. Guess what? The word obey means you're to stand there at attention. There you go. Come on. Shoulders back. At attention. Act like you're a butler of distinction. All right? There you go. And when I say, son. Hey, get over here. You know why I have to holler? He heard me. He didn't move. Go back. Try it again. You ready? Obey. Son. Do you know if you would do that every time, your mother wouldn't sound like this when she's 80. Hello, how you doing? I am your mother. Don't you love a waitress when they go to seat you, smoking or non-smoking? Well, I'm going to sound like that. I'll sit in the non-smoking part, please. Can I tell you? Listen to me. If every child here would go home, tune yourself in, and when your parents go, what's your name? Good. When your parents go, Bob, I don't care what your name is. No, Christian? Is it Christian? Okay, go back. We're not done yet. We have 2 minutes to make a point. Are you ready? Christian, can you do me a favor? Can you get me that water? Thank you. And let them go back to being mom and dad. Thank you very much. Can you take the cap off, please? And perfect. There you go. I'm thirsty. Can you take a drink for me, please? Thank you. I'm thirsty. All right. Thank you very much. Put the cap back on because I'm done. Put it on right there. There you go. All right. I'm thirsty. Could you take a drink for me, please? And let mom and dad go back to being with their. All right. There you go. Okay, put the cap back on. Put it down. Now I have to go to the bathroom. Can you go for me? No, I'm kidding. And back up. Let me tell you something. Now I'm going to call your name. Stomp up here. You got it? All right. No, not yet. Not yet. You're too eager to stomp. And shake your head and stomp all the way up. Christian, that's a bad attitude. Oh, we don't do that. Back up. Let me tell you something. If you want to see a side of mom and dad you have never seen in a couple of years, then when they call for you, stop it. And don't say, just a second, when I get done with this level, I'll be there. Oh, that's not obedience. I was talking to a parent a long time ago, and when they had cords for the controllers, and I said, how do you control the video games in your home? She said, that's fine. She picked up a pair of scissors, and she said, that's how I control the video games in my house. I said, seriously? Like how? She said, if I have to speak twice, I take the pair of scissors, walk up to the cord and cut the cord, and then I go back to my day. I was like, what do your kids do? She said, they have to obey then. Oh, that's great. She said, they keep having to buy controllers. I just have one pair of scissors. Let me tell you something. It'll be well. Your parents, you'll see a side of them you've never seen. You know what your job is? If it's not going well, it's because you're not obeying and you don't have a great attitude. I'm done with this. Thank you very much, Christian. My father, I tell Brother Goddard this, my dad could not stand a bad attitude. He just couldn't. It didn't matter. If he called your name and you came into the room and you had anything but a pleasant attitude, seriously, he would go like, oh my goodness, why don't we go all the way back? I mean, he's drama-oriented. All the way back out. And how about we try that again? I remember one time I was at my room's on the second floor, and Bob, I come stomping down that stair. He had interrupted me, and I was like, yes, sir. He goes, oh, we're going to try that one again. And when you come back, could you be more happy? So I had to go all the way back out. He said, you up there yet? I said, yes, sir. He said, stomp twice. I stomped twice. So you're there. Right, here we go. Take two. Bob. And I come stomping down them stairs. I come, yes, sir. He said, oh, see, now, if we could do it with more spirit. Take three. Go back upstairs. I did it like 10 times. Finally, I come floating in, and I was like, yes, sir. How can I serve you, sir? I love you, Dad. He said, now, see, that's what I'm talking about. Then I said, Dad, what'd you want? He said, oh, I forgot. You can go back upstairs. So I'd go back upstairs. He just wanted to make sure. Let me tell you something. If you want to see a great side of your parents, obey, honor, it'll be well. If it's not well, it's not your mom and dad's fault. It is your fault because you are not obeying and you're not honoring. If you have out-of-control parents, it's due to one thing, you. I'll end it this way. Would you please raise your parents right? Because we're tired of having them as church members angry. Take a break on us pastors. Let them come to church happy every once in a while. They give more when they're happy. They sing better when they're happy. You obey and you honor. Okay, are you ready? How many can honestly say, heads open, eyes open, heads up. How many can honestly say, I have not obeyed and honored like I should at my house. Would you make a public and just kind of admit that publicly in front of your peers? Now, raise your hand up high. Raise your hand up high. If that's you, stand up. If you can say, I've not been obeying and honoring like I should, stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up. Sit down if you're going to disobey and you're going to dishonor. Go ahead, just sit down. If you plan on this point on giving mom and dad a hard time and just being a jerk, would you sit down? I mean, if you're going to make that decision this morning that I'm going to be a jerk, I want you to sit down, all right? So anybody sitting down? Anybody sitting down? I mean, if you're really going to be a jerk to mom and dad, I want you to make that commitment tonight. Come all the way to the front, please. Stand right up here if you don't mind. We'll have the piano play a funeral march, and you come up here, and if you're going to be a jerk about life, would you come up here and let's publicly declare, nah. Can I tell you why you're standing? Because you know in your heart, I've probably not been the kind of teenager I need to be. Obey, honor, it'll go well. I can tell you how never to get another whooping. Obey and honor. No more screaming. Obey and honor. No more bad times at the house. Obey and honor. You do that, you'll be just fine. What are y'all standing for? Have a seat. There you go. Thank you very much.